Welcome to the Warframe Weapon Encyclopedia, where today we're going to check out Gauss's signature rapid-fire micro-missile launcher, the Acceltra. To acquire the Acceltra, you will have to play the mission R on Uranus, which is a dark sector-infested disruption, where the blueprint has about a 1.25% chance to drop from Demolisher Infested. Those are the big beeping guys that come in and attempt to destroy your terminal. The Acceltra comes with very high critical stats, decently sized magazine, low status chance, and it does damage in 2 stages. The initial impact of the micro rocket will do 26 impact damage, and the explosion that follows afterwards will do 35.2 puncture and 8.8 slash in a 4-meter radius with 50% fall off. The Acceltra was the first weapon to introduce self-damage protection back when self-damage was still a thing, so the micro rockets will only arm and explode after they've traveled at least 7 meters from the barrel. This is both good and bad though, because nowadays it means that it is extremely difficult to stagger yourself with a weapon, but it also means that if you're firing at enemies that are 7 meters or closer to you, you won't get the explosion and lose a bunch of damage. Now, even though the Acceltra doesn't come with a lot of status chance, I still prefer to run at least 2 dual stat mods on it, in this case Malignant Force and Rhyme Rounds for viral damage and 13.2% status. This I feel works really well with the Hunter Munitions crit setup and its high fire rate. But feel free to experiment. A lot of people, for example, tend to drop Rhyme Rounds for primed cryo rounds instead to get a lot more damage. One thing to bear in mind with the Acceltra is that a large percentage of its damage comes from the initial impact of the micro rocket, so you want to treat it more like an assault rifle and less like an explosive weapon. Ideally aiming for the enemy's head to get a headshot multiplier for your slash proc, and treat the explosion from the micro rockets as sort of a bonus that's gonna clear the smaller enemies and damage enemies around your primary target. The Acceltra also has a somewhat unique mechanic where the reload will be cut down by 0.3 seconds if you're sprinting or 0.6 seconds if you're also using Gauss. But you want to be somewhat careful, especially if you're using Gauss and you're sprinting really fast, to not run into the explosion of the rockets and get staggered by them. Now, the damage of the Acceltra isn't crazy high. It will take you through the entire star chart and you'll be able to do most sorties with it, no problem. But I wouldn't take it into Steel Path, because for that the damage is simply too low, and the weapon is also fairly ammo hungry, which then gets exaggerated once the enemies get beefier and they take more and more shots, unlike in Steel Path. But it's a great weapon for when you're doing Nightwave or you're running Fisher missions, Nightmare missions, and that kind of stuff. Plus, it's one of my personal favorite weapons to give to Wukong's Celestial Twin, who can use it very well. So all in all, while the damage isn't sky high, the weapon is still very effective in the vast majority of the game, and while the weapon can be somewhat difficult to get because the enemy only shows up 4 times during an entire round of disruption, I would still highly recommend you give this weapon a shot because it's just a ton of fun. I would especially recommend it if you're a fan of Wukong, because as I've mentioned already, the weapon on the Twin is absolutely fantastic. So as always, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.